Come to Helmuth Ford, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty.
Hi, this is Stacy from Shuttler Insurance Services. Come see me on the east side of the square in Sigourney for all your insurance needs.
The Watch Your Opera House in Watch Your, Iowa presents Bobby Simpkins' Elvis Tribute live this Saturday, September 20th from 7 to 9 p.m. Tickets are $25 for adults, $12.50 for 18 and under. Get your tickets at watchyyouroperahouse.org or at the door. Bobby Simpkins pays tribute to Elvis's great voice and generous personality and has won many awards with his Elvis Tribute. It's Bobby Simpkins' Elvis Tribute live this Saturday night starting at 7 p.m. at the Watch Your Opera House. Skunk River Radio, country music from 1990 through 2010 with some Iowa country music sprinkled in. Listen at skunkriverradio.com, download the app, listen on Alexa by saying, Alexa, play Skunk River Radio on TuneIn. You can listen to me, Steve Shuttler, each weekday morning from 6 a.m. to noon and listen to The Haze from noon to 6 p.m. Skunk River Radio, online radio for country music from 1990 to 2010.
Hey, this is Fred Ottman, Tugboat Typhoon, the Shockmaster, the B-A-double-D, Big Steel Man. And the card is subject to change. Watch it.
Welcome back to the show!
Welcome back to the show!
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Gold.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cards Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. Of course, I'm your host, never wrong, Nick Bull. Thank you so much for venturing into our little wrestling corner of the world. We're so glad you're here and glad to have you with us. Of course, we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, and colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo. I don't do this alone. I have a tag team partner. You can see him on the screen, so now it's time to introduce him. We are one half of the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the Championship Network. He celebrated a birthday yesterday as we record this. And I don't know, what is your astrological sign?
I'm a Virgo.
He's a Virgo. And he is the one, he is the Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing, bud?
I just want to say I enjoy long walks at the beach, romantic candlelit dinner. No, I'm done. No. Not neither here nor there. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, man.
Nick, we've got someone we've been looking forward to speaking with for a while coming in, and I'm going to let you do the introduction since you were the one who brought the book and this wonderful lady to our attention here.
No, I ran into Joyce, I think, for the first time a couple years ago at the Tragos and Thez Hall of Fame Wrestling Weekend in Waterloo. I think it might have been the year before, maybe the year she had the book available for sale. And it stuck in the back of my head for some reason. And one day it just clicked again. I'm like, yeah, we got to get her on. She has written a book, not only about wrestling, but more so about wrestling, her fandom. I mean, it's a lot based around the AWA, of course, what she was able to watch when she was growing up and throughout her career. But she's documented her wrestling fandom with her, and shows you her love of photography and wrestling. The book is called My Ringside Seat to the AWA. It is written by Joyce Poston, and we are so glad to have the author of said book on our show. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Joyce?
Guys, great to see you. Yeah, that's where those two books were. Nice.
That's right. Now, right here. No, I absolutely love this because not only not only it's something I really didn't know a lot about. This stuff was going on a little before my time, but being able to have a set of eyes that were there to document it, I thought was pretty cool.
Well, wrestling's changed a lot over the years, but some of the basics never change. It's well, I love your the title of your podcast, Card Subject to Change, because you always had to be ready for that with any wrestling card you went to. There was you were pretty sure you knew the lineup, but any of the opening events or the early events, you never knew if it was going to be what you thought or not. But I always saw a good card with the AWA years until it started to wind down in the late 80s. But I couldn't be more grateful for the experiences I had with it. And I still love wrestling in a lot of ways now, even though it's changed so much. Especially like you were saying at the Trigos Fest weekend, because it gives me a chance to talk to people that remembered those times and to see some independent shows that remind me of the good old days.
For sure.
Absolutely. Joyce, I usually ask all first-time guests the same questions, and I got a little off course there, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you the same question. Why pro wrestling? What was it that made you say, well, I got to see more of this?
I guess because I was a TV hound growing up. I'm really going to date myself here because we only had like 3 or 4 channels growing up. It's before cable even. And my older brother and sister were busy with my parents, and I was a very, very quiet child, but I loved TV, and so I would watch whatever was on, and loved game shows and comedies and anything like that. So one Saturday I caught wrestling, and I didn't know what it was. I just knew that these guys are screaming at each other, and this looks fun, So I was just watching on a little black and white TV in my room, I think somewhere along the line I mentioned to my parents, this wrestling is really cool. Yeah, you ought to see it or so. And that's nice, dear. Oh yeah, but I still kept watching it, and they always thought I would outgrow it, and here I am. I never did.
Neither did we.
Yeah, we didn't either.
Yeah, don't count on it happening. It's a lifelong thing.
Now, Joyce, I know your book talks a lot about one of your favorites. We'll get to that in a little bit. When you first turned it on, do you remember the first people you saw that really grabbed your attention? Was it your favorite?
I don't believe, if you're thinking of the same favorite I am, I don't believe he was there yet. But no, the first ones I remember really being fascinated by were the Vachon brothers, Mad Dog and the Butcher. And just because they were so big and bald-headed and beards and just looked like they could throw anybody around. And then and their voices too, just scary as could be. They were terrific heels, So and they carried at the time they had the tag team belts, and they carried this huge trophy into the ring. That they did away with that somewhere during the AWA line, but at that time, and I just remembered that being, wow, these guys must really be important. So. And then always the mask guys, Dr. X, Dick Beyer, the Destroyer, who also wrestled as the Destroyer, was around. And I love Dr. X because it was like such a mystery. Who is this guy, and what does he want, and why can't he get a title shot? And it was great.
Is that what drew you to the masked wrestlers? The mystery behind who they were?
Yeah. I never really. I was hoping to figure it out all the time, but without too many friends that watched wrestling, and I was ashamed to admit it at the time that I watched it to my school friends. But I relied on the wrestling magazines, and of course they were all kayfabe and didn't tell you much. So It was many years before I found out who they were. I didn't even know Dr. X and Destroyer were the same person. So,
I really the first story that hit me in this book, I believe you were talking about like a big show you went to at John O'Donnell Stadium.
right.
And just being there and the fact that Andre the Giant was there, you know, like just one of maybe the most polarizing figure in professional wrestling history. Everybody knew who he was. And here he was in Davenport back in the 70s wrestling, you know, at the stadium. I thought that was such a cool story.
That's what was so cool about the AWA is it was such a smaller circuit in those days than what the WWE does nowadays, going coast to coast. And you could see the same guys every 3 weeks sometimes when you were on the circuit. And they would bring all these big stars to Davenport or Moline, and Andre was always a huge draw.
Sure.
And he'd usually come in for the battle royals, or else, and they maybe one other match against some heel, and he was just phenomenal. I never saw him where I wasn't just jaw dropping, like, I cannot believe how big this guy is. And I guess he wasn't really as tall as what they advertised, but trust me, he was huge. And I think it was the fact that his head was so big and his hands were so big that just made him seem like he was taller and a giant.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Joyce, I want to ask you. Your book has tons of great pictures. So, if our For Frequency's Sake tribal chief is watching it, this would be a good read for him because of all the pictures. Just throwing that out there. But was wrestling a big part of your love of photography as well?
Yeah, I would say that was the reason for my love of photography. I had to find a way to get pictures of these guys for my scrapbook or just to have there. And so I started out taking some pictures at ringside. Once I got going with some friends, my first time going was for my birthday when I was 13, and my mom took me, and I didn't have a camera at all then, and I wished I would have had one to remember that night, more. All I ended up with was a lineup sheet. But later, when I was sitting at ringside, because I'd try to get ringside seats as much as possible, I had a little pocket camera that I would take, and it was film in those days, so you're limited to how many you could take. But I wanted, even though they weren't that great, I wanted the pictures for my collection, my own personal collection. So, and I started looking at them and looking at the pictures in the magazines. I thought, my pictures are not anything like what's in the magazine. I got better. And so I talked to some of my friends there, one of the guys that did shoot at ringside, and he said, well, you need a better camera. So I saved up my money, got a better camera, and learned some tips about going up to the ring during the introductions and when to, try to shoot the picture so that you wouldn't get the backs of their heads. And it seemed like I was always a half second too late when I was taking the pictures at the beginning. Anyway, that was. I love photography now for nature photography and eagles and sunsets and things like that, and just to go on vacations. But I would say wrestling was the primary reason I wanted to have a better camera.
So I want to ask, do you now, with the advances of cameras and photography, do you wish you had a digital camera back in the day, or would you prefer?
I have thought about that sometimes over the years, and in a way I would, because there were so many shots that I missed that I wish I could have had more of a chance to, like, especially if somebody's eyes were closed. It's like, if I could have just taken one or two more to just be sure, like, that everybody's eyes were open. But during the match, I think I would have missed the entire match because I would have been shooting pictures the entire event. So I think having to be more selective about when I would shoot the pictures, I think was in a way better. But when it got to be some of the bigger matches, I remember buying like 4 or 5 rolls of 36 pictures, and eventually I would go through and throw out the ones that weren't any good, which happened a lot. You only send in the real good ones.